Say to the fans right now who are going home and clearly going to be venting their frustrations on radio and social media and things like that?
I completely understand how they feel, and we sit in the same boat. We are frustrated. We're disappointed in what we're putting out there, and I ask them just to stick by us.
It was the shock loss of round 13. Adelaide were huge favourites against Richmond, who were resting Dustin Martin for game 300, and were still without a number of important players. What happened over the next 2 hours was pure frustration for the players, fans, and coach Matthew Nicks, who was visibly disappointed in his post-game press conference. Stephen Rowe went nuts on radio about the whole club, taking aim at everyone in a position of power, while the Crows supporters cheered him on inside their cars or listening from their phones. Everything that could go wrong has seemed to in 2024. The club was ready to play finals after being ripped off in 2023, and it felt like the squad and Nicks had spent the necessary time together to break out and become a serious team. They did lose Riley Thilthorpe in the pre-season, who internally many expected to begin to heavily influence games, while Taylor Walker, whose first game was in round 2, has had a dodgy back all season. It's two of their important forwards either out of the team or not playing fully fit, and did partly contribute to an 0-4 start, which in hindsight basically was the end of their season. They got back on track with their form, but an unlucky 3-point loss to Essendon, draw to Brisbane at home, and third straight close loss to Collingwood sums up their 2024. Add in that Isaac Rankin, Matt Crouch, Wayne Millerer, and Josh Worrell are all important players who have missed recently, and on paper, it's no real surprise the game against Richmond went the way it did. Right now, this Adelaide team is far from the powerful Crows side we saw at times in 2023. But besides the coach, Mark Rasciuto, fan expectations and media pressure, the Adelaide Crows have got one fundamental flaw running through their entire program. It can be traced as far back as the 2016 off-season.
With pick 8, Adelaide select Daniel Curtin from Claremont and the West Coast Junior Football Club.
The sound of a draft pick being announced will make Crows fans shudder. No club has drafted as badly as Adelaide since 2016. It's 7 drafts, not counting 2023, of either poor scouting, horrific draft luck, or bad development. Maybe a combination of all three. Remember, Matthew Nicks arrived in 2020, but as a coach, you do inherit a club's past. Since 2016, they have not drafted one single All-Australian player, or even one that could get in the squad of 40. The last time they did was Jake Lever, who made the All-Australian squad of 40 in 2017, before making the official team of 22 with Melbourne in 2021. The last All-Australian the Crows had was Matt Crouch, who was drafted at pick 23 in 2013. That's hard to get your head around. It's been a decade since the football club has picked up a player good enough to be in the best 22 across the competition. Now, it's no wonder the team has struggled since the 2017 Grand Final. To compare in the last decade, Carlton have drafted 5 All-Australian players, the Western Bulldogs 4, Collingwood 5, and Sydney 3. It's not the be-all and end-all, but is a good indicator of the elite talent on your list. Now, this is where things get ugly. Let's start with all the picks within selection 30 since 2016. This is about the midway point of the second round of the draft. At pick 15 in 2016 was Jordan Gallucci. He played 27 games, kicked 19 goals before being delisted at the end of 2020. Pick 12 in 2017 was used on Darcy Fogarty. He's played 90 games now, is in the leadership group, and after inconsistencies early on, he has become a very good player. It takes a turn for the worst here. In 2018 at pick 9 was Chase Jones. He looked completely lost early on, but over the past couple of years has found a spot on the wing. He's only 24, but seems to be a role player at best. Pick 16 was Ned McHenry. He has crept to over 60 games for the club, but seems to be the sub every second week and hasn't had much impact in the AFL. He plays with guts and heart, but for a pick 16, it just hasn't worked out. Pick 30 was Will Hamill, who has had serious concussion issues after a positive start. He's played a bit this year and might become a regular in the 22 soon enough. 2019 was a critical year with selection 6. In came key defender Fisher Mackesy, who played 10 games in his debut 2020 season, but that was it from him, and he retired after 2023, citing personal reasons. Pick 24 was Harry Schoenberg. He has shown promise over his journey in the AFL, but after his 22 games in 2021, he's declined every season and had that horror Achilles injury last year. He's managed 50 games, but like the others before him, he hasn't improved much since his second season. Pick 28 was Josh Worrell. He's out injured right now, but looks pretty solid. The professional nature of the game took him a while to pick up, but he can have a future in defence with his size and athletic ability. 2020's draft got them Riley Thilthorpe at pick 2. He had a big debut, was performing steady since then, and seeing this year was his destined breakout. The jury is still out on him, I guess. Pick 11 was Luke Pedlar, who was great last season as a centre forward piece, but through bad form and a bit of injury is now completely out of favour. Pick 25 was Braden Cook, who has played most of the games this season on a wing or up forward, and he has shown a bit. He isn't consistent yet, but Knicks may as well keep playing him to develop. 3 picks later was Sam Berry. He starred in 2022 and looked to be their next on-ball gun, but has been kicked out the starting midfield rotation and is now sporadically in and out the best 22, mainly as a sub. To finish off, 2021 had Josh Rochelle join at pick 6. He started like a house on fire, but has slowly faded in form and now wants more midfield time. And in 2022 at pick 17 was Max Michelani, who is already a good AFL player and will play a whole lot of games for Adelaide in the future. From this list of players, there are some key takeaways. Luck hasn't been great. Mackesy admitted he wasn't ready for an interstate move and living on his own, while Hamill, Schoenberg and Thilthorpe have had injury concerns. But clearly development is an issue. Jones, McHenry, Schoenberg, Berry and Rochelle have all had solid starts to their career, but where has the growth been? It's 5 players who showed early on they could play at the level, but for whatever reason there has been stagnation or a slow and almost painful decline in performance. Only the Crows know the answer why this is a trend, or with this history, maybe they don't. From these 14 players, not one has become a superstar. Fogarty is a star on his best days, Michelani has huge potential, Jones is a solid role player, who knows about Rochelle, and the rest are either battlers, sporadically show good signs, or are not good enough. It feels harsh saying this out loud, but I know Adelaide fans probably think this is being kind. The funny thing is, Adelaide might be the club with the biggest disparity between drafting and recruiting of all time. They can't draft at all, but boy can they trade in some star players and pick up delisted ones that help. Jordan Dawson is now captain, has been All-Australian and won a best and fairest. Isaac Rankin has been their best player this season and one of the best players in the AFL. Mitch Hinge was picked up as a delisted free agent in 2020 and is a key member of their back 6, while fellow former Brisbane Lion Ben Keys was a rookie pickup in 2019 and can play anywhere on anyone and do anything. Add in Mark Keane as a pre-season pickup who has been a shining light this season, and it's scary to think where the Crows would be without their mature pickups outside the national draft. Now they still have hit some gold in the latter parts of the national and rookie draft with guys like Jake Saligo, Jordan Butts and Nick Murray, but it's not a sustainable way to build a team that can compete. Fundamentally, there is a scouting and development issue at Westlakes that has been going on for a decade. They have to fix it, whether it's new personnel, training adjustments, or mental practices to keep new players growing? If they don't, then how will the next decade be any different? Unless they find another Dangerfield, Bonampelli or Franklin, which come about once a generation, then the rest of the players drafted will face a similar fate. Adelaide currently holds pick 4 in the 2024 draft. Sure, they might get Elliot Yeo to help out on ball, and maybe another player or two, but all focus from the fans will be on that first round pick. They got Daniel Curtin last season, and you would think a dynamic midfielder, a quick halfback rebounder would be a priority. So let's see if Adelaide can learn from their past mistakes this off-season and finally get back on track to make finals for the first time since 2017 by nailing a star player in the national draft.